This is called ice. This is what winter in America feels like.
Yes, it does, especially right here in the Valley. That was a clip from the movie called The Good Lie, and is about the lost boys from Sudan who fled war-torn Sudan for the Kakuma refugee camp in Kenya. And believe it or not, we kind of have our own very own lost boy with us tonight. Mohi Omer. Mohi's a refugee from Sudan that came to Fargo via the Kakuma refugee camp you just saw there that's in Kenya. He also lives in Fargo, and he currently is in Washington, D.C., wrapping up an internship for Senator Heidi Heiken. Also with us tonight in studio, Hukun Abdullahi. He's a New American and also the leader of the Afro-American Students Association. And also with us is Yunus Amin, who's the finance director of the Africa-American Association. To all three of you, thank you so much for joining us. Mohi, I want to start with you because obviously one of the focuses that we've had here at Valley News Live is about refugees. These two gentlemen came here via visas, but I do want to get their thoughts as new Americans. For you, Mohi, just to help us as we live in what I would consider a very docile place, considering the Red River Valley, help us understand your journey from what was going on in Sudan and then your journey from Sudan to the Kakuma refugee camp. Am I saying that correctly, by the way, Mohi, in Kenya?
You are. Yes, you are. First of all, thank you for having me, Chris. I'm glad to be with you and with your guest. First of all, I think you're doing the right thing. We need to talk about this issue. We need to bring leaders from the New American community and leaders from the state and from Fargo and talk about this one. To answer your question, of course, first of all, I need to clarify one thing. I am not a lost boy. Lost boy were kids who came from South Sudan in the late 1990s and then 1998 until 2003 or 2004. So I'm not one of them. I am from Sudan. I am from Darfur, where genocide is taking place. So just to clarify that, as you know, there is genocide going on in Sudan. And when the war began in Sudan and it reached out to my hometown, we had to flee. I went to Kenya. I lived in Kenya for a while. And then from Kenya, I came to U.S. Through the U.S. resettlement program. I came to Fargo. So I don't know what you wanted me exactly.
But Mohi, what I want you to share, though, is you make it sound like you just jumped in your, Range Rover four-wheeler from Sudan to Kenya and everything, where you were eating grapes and have somebody feign you. What I want you to let us understand is, I don't know if you got there on feet, how you got to Kenya, and then how long were you in the refugee camp?
Well, I was in high school, end of my high school in Sudan, and I was part of the students activists in Sudan, in Khartoum City. We try to demonstrate and put pressure on the Sudanese government to stop random killing of innocent people in Darfur, but the Sudanese government responded with harsh military power, which killed, I think, tens of students, and then we had to flee. I went to Kakuma refugee camp through South Sudan. It took me about a month or so. And then in Kakuma refugee camp, as you know, the refugee is the world's largest refugee camp. There are hundreds of thousands of refugees living in that refugee camp. And there is no basic need, basic needs of life, basically. There is schools, of course, elementary and high school. I think there is high school, but there is no colleges. Of course, there is even the schools are not as schools here. It's a completely different environment. But I think the one positive thing I learned from the refugee camp is that people come from different backgrounds. People come from different cultures and spoken different languages and worship different, religious beliefs and things like that, different faiths and things like that. So that's kind of like enabled me. Yes, when we talk about refugee camp, it's a situation that no one wanted to be in.
And Mohi, I don't mean to cut you off, sir, but I want to integrate some of our other guests as well. We're going to keep you around for another segment, but I also want to talk to all three of you about this. Hukun, I'm going to start with you. Your thoughts on, we went out and did a pretty pretty good poll. 625 people, I believe, just in Cass and Clay County. So pretty good group of people there. 57% of the people say they oppose having refugees come to our community. How do you respond to that?
And first of all, thank you for having me on the show. And secondly, what I'm saying about that's public opinion, and publics, what I can say, locals, they have been misinformed on that. I think the only issue we can do is that the immigrants, we have to do some, kind of like, educate the public who we are, where we came from, and what we do, and are we taxpayers, and what are we doing. At least, they can come and join us and see what we are doing, so that they can, kind of like view who we are. If we are, people who are not doing the right thing, if we are the people who are doing on the wrong part, I think they could come to us and see us what we are doing, the people who are here, so that they can understand more about the people who have been resettled.
So how do you think you're being misrepresented or being ill-educated to other people?
And and what's going on basically is all about, and I can say, and public, whatever they see on the media and other parts, that's what they judge. But what I'm saying is, like, if they come to us and ask about our culture, our dynamics, where we came from, who we are, what we do, I think they will be right people who will going to respond that refugees should be resettled here. But the problem is they don't know about who we are. They hear about other viewers, what they are saying about, and then they kind of like say that this kind of like this is what people think about. But if they come to us and see us who we are, and we share with them with our story, where we came from, what we do here, are we taxpayers, what we do, are we working, what are we doing, what the community are doing, I think they will feel about our situation, and so that.
I wish I'd hold that thought, because also you were quoted in the newspaper saying, hey, look, we're having issues with employment in this community. We're having issues with housing. We're having issues with the schools, partly because of the language barrier. And I'm going to be frank with you, even as I sit here and listen to you, I can understand you, but it can be a challenge, probably you for me as well. So we're going to talk about that issue next and what can happen, obviously, with the English second language situation in the school. Stay with us. Much more coming up right here on 630 Point of View.